I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 36, printed in Part C of House Report number 117-125, offered by Mr. Johnson of Georgia.
Pursuant to House Resolution 667, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Johnson, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Johnson.
I thank the Speaker. I rise in support of my bipartisan amendment to end the Defense Department's militarization of police departments across the nation. I think we can all agree that community confidence in law enforcement is at an all-time low, and a huge factor in this loss of confidence is the militarization of our police departments across the nation. This trend has been exacerbated by the 1033 program that creates a pipeline to transfer surplus military weapons from war zones directly to domestic law enforcement agencies. These law enforcement agencies, without consent of the civilian authorities, obtain military-grade weaponry directly from the war zones of Iraq and Afghanistan. And it is the civilian authorities who should decide whether such equipment is needed, not the law enforcement agencies themselves. The approval of city councils, county commissions, and other civilian authorities is bypassed under the 1033 program. And this amendment would fix that. It would stop law enforcement agencies from acquiring military-grade weaponry without the consent of the governed, and when they oftentimes have no need for these weapons of war, nor are they trained as to how and when to use the equipment. But a requirement under the 1033 program mandates that the acquired equipment be placed into use within 12 months of acquisition, and this mandate has resulted in the misuse of the equipment and abuse of civilians against whom it was used. The result has been communities alienated and a loss of confidence in law enforcement. Momentum is building towards reform of the 1033 program. American communities are not and should not be turned into battlefields, and people in those communities should not be looked at as enemy combatants. The ending of the war in Afghanistan makes it even more important than ever that we close down this pipeline of military-grade weapons from foreign war zones to the streets of our nation. Over 17,000 pieces of military equipment have been declared excess or surplus and sent to the Defense Logistics Agency for distribution onto our streets. The time is now to act, and I urge my colleagues to vote yes on my amendment, and with that I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. For what purpose does the gentleman rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to the amendment.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to yield myself 30 seconds.
Gentleman is recognized for 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I fully support our law enforcement community, and particularly those in small and rural communities like those that pepper my entire congressional district. Those are the ones that benefit the most from the 1033 program. Limiting military equipment transfers would significantly impede their ability to do their jobs to keep us safe. We need to be supporting our law enforcement community, not making their missions more difficult. For that reason, I oppose this amendment and urge a no vote, and I, at this time, would like to reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Alabama reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A small law enforcement agency being able to order massive amounts of military equipment directly from the battlefields of this country and to do it without consent of the governed is wrong, and that's what this amendment will get at. And with that, I will reserve the balance.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I'd like to give 90 seconds to my friend and colleague from Tennessee, from Florida. I don't know why I got Tennessee down here. Mr. Franklin, a great member of the Armed Services Committee.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for a minute and a half.
Right. I thank the gentleman from Alabama for yielding me time to speak on the importance of Section 1033 military surplus program. My Democrat colleagues frequently argue the 1033 program exists to militarize our police by providing lethal equipment. They claim the program transfers weapons of war to the police. They continue to perpetuate this misleading narrative to advance their dangerous crusade against law enforcement. Mr. Speaker, I've spoken with law enforcement in my district. The 1033 program has helped them acquire a number of needed pieces of equipment, including heavy rescue vehicles. In 2015, a perpetrator in Polk County, Florida, my home district, wearing a bulletproof vest, infiltrated a police line and had a shootout with our SWAT team. He had a stockpile of weapons, including AR-15s, AK-47s, and he used them to fire 93 rounds at deputies attempting to take him into custody. Sadly, John McCula, a Polk County EMT, was shot and injured in the shootout. If not for this armored vehicle, this armored SWAT military surplus vehicle acquired through the 1033 program, more deputies might have been injured or killed. The 1033 program provides law enforcement agencies with needed heavy-duty equipment at little to no cost. It's taxpayer-friendly and efficient to recycle, reuse, and extend the life of equipment bought by taxpayers. It would be wasteful to simply discard this gear. Many of the types of vehicles are also used during hurricane recovery to rescue stranded citizens. The 1033 program also provides tents, generators, and air conditioners that are used for natural disaster field facilities. Mr. Speaker, I am a military veteran and familiar with weapons of war. I've never seen rescue vehicles, tents, generators, or air conditioners used or referred to as weapons of war. Our law enforcement agencies use the 1033 program to acquire equipment that protects our officers and serves our communities. This amendment's another ridiculous attempt to defund and undermine the men and women who protect us and put their lives on the line. I urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Alabama reserves. Gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rather than defund police, this amendment restores civilian authority over law enforcement. And I'll submit to you that a small law enforcement agency doesn't need a military-grade tank to rescue stranded individuals that may be due to a hurricane or something like that, some kind of a natural disaster. You don't need a military tank to do that. And no law enforcement agency should be able to order that equipment directly from the battlefield without the consent of the governed. And with that, I will reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Georgia reserves. The gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I'd like to yield 90 seconds to my good friend from Florida, former sheriff, Mr. Rutherford.
The gentleman from Florida is recognized for a minute and a half.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my good friend from Alabama. Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to this amendment, which would unnecessarily restrict the Department of Defense from transferring surplus equipment to local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. We all remember the tragic Pulse nightclub shooting in my home state of Florida. During their response, law enforcement officers set off a controlled explosion to distract the shooter and used an armored vehicle to breach the walls of the nightclub to gain entry. One of the entry officers was literally shot in the head, but his life was saved by his anti-ballistic helmet. Now, I believe, had the gentleman across the aisle been an entry officer that night, he might have a different opinion on the equipment that's necessary at those scenes. Under this amendment, those officers would not have had the explosives, the armored vehicle, or the anti-ballistic helmet that saved their lives and many more lives that night. This program works to get our law enforcement officers what they need to protect themselves and to protect our communities. I always promised my community that our law enforcement officers would be men and women of character, well-equipped, properly deployed, and skillfully managed. The 1033 program helps achieve that goal with significant reductions of cost to hard-working taxpayers. We must not take that away. I urge a no vote, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Florida yields back. Gentleman from Alabama reserves. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A large metropolitan law enforcement agency with the consent of the governed has the ability to purchase whatever equipment they need, but the bottom line is the civilian authorities get to decide and the taxpayers pay for it. But there should not be a supply line directly from the battlefield to a local law enforcement agency without consent of the governed, and with the governed having to bear the cost of unnecessary equipment as well as its misuse that contributes to the decline in confidence in law enforcement. And with that, I'll reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman